My name is Andy Nacin. I'm one of the core developers of WordPress. I see a few familiar faces from WordCamp New York, WordCamp Philly, WordCamp Netherlands. How's it going? I was in New York. I sent Steve an email yesterday asking if I could come out tonight. Thank you, Steve, for letting me come by. I wanted to talk a little bit today about what we've been working on for WordPress 3.3, which is due hopefully November or December. And then ideally just open it up for question and answer if you guys have anything to throw at. So first, what we can look at here is that this right here is WordPress 3.2. You've seen this already. This is pretty basic. This is the 2011 theme. We have a very basic admin bar here. Everything, pretty simple. Who uses the admin bar? Who likes the admin bar? Who dislikes the admin bar? Okay. Both ways? Okay. So you guys might not have a choice in a moment. We'll get there in a second. So what we did is that we actually did a number of rounds of user testing on this. We had a number of different people who are working through this to actually do user testing on a number of different ideas of what we currently have, different things that we then worked up. And now what we have is something that looks like this. What you see here is that the admin bar actually has changed a decent amount here. It's actually gotten darker. It looks a little bit like Google+. It's also, in many ways, merged a lot of the different elements here. So right here you have, let's say, the site title. You have, over on the other side, you have screen options and help that no one ever clicks because no one knows it's there. Doesn't really help when you need help. And you see now we've actually improved the screen real estate a bit. We've actually changed the way things work a bit, and we've actually been able to make this ideally a little better. We've added things along the lines of like a little WordPress menu right here, if it actually wants to work. Wow.
This is the 3.2.
This is 3.3. There we go. All right. Chrome full screen. Where we've actually added things like a page on About This version. The freedom and credit pages that you've seen previously are now actually brought out of the footer. They're brought up here. Links directly to WordPress.org, documentation, support forums. I think in many ways this idea of the release is to make things a lot easier for a number of people. A lot of new users really just don't know where to look when they hit the dashboard, or they really just don't know what they need. And so we've also done things like improving help. So you've previously seen help over here. When you click this down, we get like this giant blob of text. Probably not really very useful. So now what we have instead, so we actually click it right here, and you can access that anywhere from the page. We actually have this really nice little way of actually segregating off all of these different spots, including different tabs for different pieces of content. What you can also do is that as a plugin developer, those of you who are developers here, you can do this for your own plugin pages. You can actually create more help tabs. Being able to add stuff to the sidebar on the right, being able to add more screen options, things like this. All this is fully customizable for developers as well. Some of the other things that you might have already seen here is that the menus are no longer click to expand, which actually enables every menu to be accessed with one click. So we can actually scroll down here and you'll see that these are just flying out really quickly for you to then be able to access any page you want. We already have this in the collapsed menu state, as you see here. But now we actually have this in the main menu state as well. Has anyone ever used this state, by the way? The collapsed menu state? I actually really like it. A cool little thing now is that we've actually tried to make some areas of the admin a little more responsive to different screen layouts. And so let's say you're on like an iPad or something, it'll automatically just collapse that menu for you. And it does a number of different things where it'll actually, if you change the orientation of your iPad and whatnot, it's better responsive to touch. We're trying to do a number of different optimizations just kind of across the board, small little baby steps kind of across the board.
How do these menus work with screen readers?
So here's the interesting thing about these menus. Every one of them, there's no JavaScript involved at all. This is all CSS3, including the little triangles. Those are actually diamonds that you can't really see. It's all CSS3 transformed. So this all works all the way down to Internet Explorer 7, and it will work just fine for screen readers. For people who were already needing to click anyways, if they want to simply click, let's say, media, then what you'll see is you'll see the expanded menu. So it's certainly not any worse for them. In many ways, it's better. This can be helpful, especially when you have plugins that might add menus, who knows where. Maybe you have 110 screen menus that you want to try and get to. This is just a really much easier way to kind of browse them rather than scrolling through a whole list. So yeah, no, this is all like really dark voodoo. I heard people talking about CSS3 earlier and whatnot, and this is just, if you guys want to take a look at some really interesting transforms and whatnot, I would take a look here. So some of the other cool things here is that we can actually go over to add new, and you'll see really quickly actually, there's only one media button here instead of 4. Again, one more thing that just has always confused users. This came up in usability testing 2.5 years ago, and we just fixed it now. But that's actually something we fixed, which is good. So, and actually, if we want to click this, we now have this really cool new uploader, which doesn't use Flash anymore, which is nice. It actually uses HTML5, Silverlight, or Flash, depending on what's available. And so in this case, it's actually, you can just drag and drop files, and it works quite nicely. People have been wanting media improvements for a very long time, of course. This is the first step in there. We're working on a few more things in the next couple of releases as well. So, but this is really cool because it enables you to very easily upload multiple files, drag and drop directly from Finder or Explorer. Just really nice little touch.
Can you upload files from the iPad?
That's a really good question. I'll make a note though. I'm actually not sure. I can't imagine why not, because in that case it would probably choose HTML5 uploading, which I'm pretty sure that Mobile Safari supports. So maybe not drag and drop, but that's mainly because you wouldn't be able to drag it from somewhere.
No, actually, an iPad is general kind of upload files.
Right.
It's kind of general. So
I can't.
There is a solution.
I don't know.
I tried to blog a photo and well.
I can't on my Android phone.
Well, you found that your file system from your browser.
You can't? Well, there you go.
So, I can just point out, so you can't build into a site the ability to do things like upload photos. That's about it.
Okay.
Because there's no file system in iOS, you have visibility.
Right, right.
Yeah. Okay.
So you can on my Android phone.
Sorry for my question.
No, it's fine. So again, like these are just some of the different improvements. One of the other cool things as well is I'm just going to log in here as a new user. And then you see right away that I'm actually going to have a pop-up that's going to tell me, hey, look, the admin bar has been updated for 3.3. It's going to have it's going to have different strings than what you see here, of course. But this is kind of a way to actually then point people to new features. So for example, it'll actually be pointing people directly to the help menu, so they can then click that. Another thing that should be going into 3.3 in the next few days is a welcome screen. So the idea is for new users, for new install, it'll actually come up with a screen right in the dashboard that'll say, you know, hey, welcome to WordPress. These are the things you need to know. Maybe you should go, for example, change your permalink settings. And when you click permalink settings, not only will it take you to the settings screen, but it will actually then do, let's say, a pointer at a specific spot saying this is where you should click, this is what you should do. And so we're actually going to have these pretty much across the admin. Plugins are already starting to do these for things like walkthroughs, actually walking through an entire plugin, all the different settings, all the, where everything is, through all of these pointers. And obviously, I mean, it stays up there because it hasn't gone away yet, but I can now close that.
Is there a reason that that is the default permalink settings? I mean, I have to do that every single file install.
So the main reason why that's the default permalink setting is because we don't know if your server will support better permalinks.
Okay.
So if you're not running Apache, if you're not running IIS, you're not running Nginx even, so we just can't control it. So we default to that. The nice thing though is that in 3.3 we'll actually then remind you, hey, you should go take a look here, rather than having those really ugly permalinks before that.
I should already know this, but can you change that in the config file just so it already sets that?
It's sort of in the database, so it's not necessarily in
Yeah.
code. You could. I mean, you could maybe not config. You can do a little plugin that'll do that.
Okay.
It'd be a really short plugin. You just filter things like permalink structure, and you can then do that way. So, one thing you might notice here, probably not, is that there's a new common setting that is listed here. What this is this is simply the post name setting, which you have certainly seen before. It's never been here before because this didn't really work that well. With a large number of pages, the permalink lookups actually bloated the database and actually took way too long to load. So if you're going to go ahead and actually use this on a site that had a lot of content, it might actually slow down your site. That is all fixed. Those of you who have heard of post name permalinks and everything else, it's all fixed. We took care of it. There was about 10 of us surrounding a table in San Francisco at WordCamp San Francisco in August. And we had a whiteboard and everything else, and we couldn't come up with a solution. And then Andy Skelton walked by and he says, what if we did this? And it worked. So it's done. For those of you guys, I know a lot of you guys have asked for that. There are a number of other really cool things for developers as well. Those of you who are doing a lot of interactions with metadata, whether for users or posts or comments, there's a new register meta API, and what this enables you to do is then specify things like sanitization callback, very similar to what you would do with register setting, and then even like being able to handle how the authorization works as well. So you can actually make it, so all you need to do is just call update post meta, in like save post for a meta box or something along those lines, and you have a separate callback already registered that will just save the data and sanitize it exactly how you want it to. So it's it's one step in the right direction of having a full meta box API. Questions so far? No. All right. How many people here are developers? A number of fans. Okay. So I'm not going completely over everyone's head. Some other interesting things that might help is that for those of you who like to experiment with the visual editor, not as writers, but actually as developers. So taking the visual editor, or perhaps taking quick tags. So for example, all of these links here into your plugins. Both of those have now completely new APIs that you can now use. So there's a new JavaScript API for quick tags, there's a new PHP API for the editor that enables you to do just a lot more cool things. It enables multiple instances of the editor on a page without breaking, which was always a problem, I guess, in previously. Just one more little thing that we've kind of added there. Anyone who's a front-end developer might be interested that something like jQuery UI, those of you who might use it, the entire thing is now loaded in core. So we just basically loaded the whole thing. Date picker, autocomplete, everything that we use or don't, it's now in there. It's very helpful for you guys. And then something that I'm going to mention only because it took me about 8 hours to solve is that previously if you edited a post, saved it, left the post, someone else went into that post pretty quickly, it might still say that the original person was editing the post, right? Kind of annoying. I mean, the person hit save and left the post. Why does it still say that? So we now actually have a much improved autosave locking. That's actually now fixed. So if you leave a post, it will not bother you about that constantly again. So the locking is actually fixed in a lot of different ways. And that was actually, it was very helpful. I met with the blogs team in the New York Times up in New York about a month ago, and they had implemented it internally. And so then we took a look at what they did, and then we implemented it into WordPress as well. So that's New York contributing to WordPress. I must say though, so I run the DC, I'm from Washington DC, that's where I live, and I run the Meetup group there, and I really love this space. I thought we had the best space, but this one comes pretty close to rivaling it. So we have like this really cool gallery, but you guys been here for a while?
We've been about 4 or 5 months.
4 or 5 months? Cool. So it's a co-working space?
It's co-working.
So with that, I've gone over basically all the bells and whistles that I can show you. There's not a whole lot necessarily here. There are a lot more things under the hood, various different performance improvements, things like that. So is there any questions at all regarding 3.3, WordPress development, anything really? Yeah.
Quick question. I tried to do some WordPressing on an iPad, not using the iOS app, just
right.
using through the browser, and I noticed that you can't move your widgets around. Is that anything that you looked into? Or?
I don't remember if that screen was taken.
There's a way, you have to do it in this primitive mode where you check them and something.
Yeah, it's the accessibility mode for widgets. I'm not entirely sure. Our goal over the next few releases is to really just create a more responsive admin and a more mobile-like admin. So realistically, you could fire it up on your iPad and it would work perfectly fine on every screen. Of course, there are so many different screens we need to account for. So there's the nav menu screen, which is drag drop. There's the widget screen, which is drag drop in a completely different way. So there are all sorts of different aspects that we need to account for across the board. There's also one thing that we want to focus on is something like widescreens. So I have a 27-inch monitor at home, but let's say someone who is actually in the WordPress admin all day, and they want to go edit widgets. And they go over to the widget screen here, and they have, 4 or 5 different sidebars, 6 different sidebars. Wouldn't it be great if instead of them being one after another, if you're on a wide screen, they just show up like this, right across? So that's just kind of one other different way that we're trying to make things responsive across the board.
There was someone who actually made that, right?
I'm not sure.
I've seen it on WDF.
Yeah, I think it was a task. I just don't know if it got done. So there, I mean, it's an idea we've been bouncing around for a while, for sure.
And when is this expected to go live?
November, December. So we said November, December last time, and it was February, but it actually will probably be November, December this time. So, because I want a holiday.
You said that
Yeah.
last year.
What was that?
You said that last year.
I did say that last year at WordCamp, New York.
Is there any plan for, like, anytime there's a really long menu, editing that is really tedious too a lot of the time? I just have to, a lot of times, like, I have to zoom out in my browser so much to see the whole thing and drag things around.
Yeah.
It's kind of terrible.
I saw a plugin on Code Candy actually.
I got it and it crashes. It crashes.
Yeah.
And then I changed it.
Say that in private.
I mean,
It's like I'll have like all of these things on this menu and I'm like, oh, I'm almost
it
done.
was like $8 for like a collapsible thing. I don't know. It'd be a
Yeah.
cool thing to add. I think in many cases, like the whole nav menus needs a rewrite at some point.
Yeah.
I mean, we wrote it initially in 3.0 to kind of had a good idea that we want it to be customizable, but now we kind of need it to be more extensible and then more, flexible for those kind of use cases. So nothing yet. I mean, I'm sure that there are. I imagine if there's one plugin out there, there are more than one.
Right.
So sorry about that. I tried. I said it, and then he shot it down.
It also might be my server and like we're getting ready. That's my next step is to, because I was Googling about the problem. People said it was their host. It was
Did
their
you get a refund?
fault. No, I like it and I'm sure it works. I'm going to try it on my other host.
If it crashed, you get a refund.
Kind of related to that, like under pages, it seems like there's like a hard limit on the number of pages that are listed, even if there's like children and parents, that goes on to the next page, and like sometimes it's annoying to bulk edit like a bunch of them at once. You have to like go on to another page just to
So-
see it.
So what you can always do, I mean, if it helps, perhaps you can just change the number that are shown on the screen.
Okay.
So by default, it says 20. This is just right in screen options. By default, it's 20. You can specify like 999. Might not necessarily
So I can
recommend
send them
that.
all on one page.
Yeah, if you wanted to.
That's there right now?
Yeah.
It's been there for a while, yeah.
This has actually been there since WordPress 2.7. So I can go into 3.2 and posts and just change this to, oh, that's help. And there's a show on screen, 20 posts.
No one uses that tab.
That's part, no one uses the tab, which is why we moved it and put a pointer arrow, an arrow on it. So.
Wait, are you talking about you were talking about, I think you were talking about the back end, looking at the number of pages that show.
Yeah, that's what this
They
is.
do that too, right? Pages and posts.
Yeah, it's the same, you just go to a different screen. So here,
Okay, then what about?
I'm used to the flats, did anyone
Then
see
what about
that?
dragging and dropping the order of the pages?
Drag and drop in the order of the page. For what reason would you be reordering?
Because there's just so many, and sometimes you want to just go into certain pages, and then, because now if I know I don't have the page to get to the next 20, I come in.
There you go.
Yeah.
So the search is really helpful too, so.
You got another one?
Yeah, no, here, hold on one second.
Very small one, but is there an easy way to delete comments from the comments panel? Like you removed the trash button recently, if you hover over it. Oh, trash is not there. Is that added to 3.3? We have 3.2 installed and the trash button is not there. You actually have to edit the post.
There it is.
But is it in the older?
That's, I just went to the 3.2 version to show you. So it might be a plugin removing it for some reason.
It must be because like,
The other thing too, what's really cool about the screen that most people don't know is that there are keyboard shortcuts. I honestly don't remember them because my head is full of the Gmail keyboard shortcuts. But there is, it may be in help, let's see here, documentation on keyboard shortcuts, which will take you to the codex. And it will describe for you that if you decide to turn them on, J and K goes back and forth, and then you can approve, spam, delete, or undo comments. Let's see here. I believe you have to go first to your profile and turn on enable keyboard shortcut for comment moderation. And then once you do this, you can then, oh, that's edit. I can approve or unapprove this. Just crash that. Delete it. Oh wait. There you go. So you could actually
I'm
do
trying to
that.
wonder why a plugin would remove it, because it is not there.
Do you have the actual trash, like, or
The little trash anchor tag is not there.
Yeah.
And I thought for some reason you guys removed it with 3.2 or something.
No, we only added it in
log in and
2.9.
show us, I wanna see.
What's
Yeah.
that? I want to see what's wrong.
Push in the back. If you want to pull it up after, I'll probably point it out.
Yeah, this is more of a feature thing than a functionality
Sure.
thing, but any support for multiple authors in one blog? Like, I know that you can create user after user after user, but you have to go into the codex to find the authors.php file and load that in, and then, you know, try to make your blog work for multiple writers.
Something tells me it's your theme that just isn't very flexible in that place. So most themes will be will very easily just go ahead and show the new author. It'll have a new page for the author. You know, 2010 or 2011 actually shows a little their bio below the post that they write.
No, I know that, but isn't it have to like, it just doesn't come bundled, the like the author.php file, or am I wrong?
Well, no, but I mean, well, maybe. I'm not actually sure if it shows up in that one. There's an author.php file in 2010. So, and it should work pretty simply. So it's probably just, so this is the author archive for the admin user, for example. So in this case, it would normally be, you know, your site /author/admin or Nacin, whatever it is. So yeah, it does work. It's probably just your theme that might, you know, you might be doing something that you can maybe abstract out a little bit. But I mean, I'm sure the guys at the Genius Bar could possibly take a look at it after.
Going back to comments for a second, are there any plans to expand custom comment types, the way custom post types have been?
So they do work. There was one particular bug that made them really annoying, and that was fixed. They're not well supported, but they do work. It's kind of like the way that you could have done post types before we actually introduced them in 2.9. Fun fact, they were not introduced in 3.0. They were actually introduced before that. You could do it back in like 2.5 if you wanted to, just not very effectively. I imagine at some point.
So high on priority list.
It's nothing that really I guess it's something that we've talked about. It's kind of like an idea, but it would require quite a bit of refactoring. So we probably have to reach a point where it makes sense to really, you know, spend a lot of dev efforts on that.
Another question. Yeah. When you put captions under pictures,
Yeah.
Is there any way you can scale the fonts and move the text down? Is that a function of the theme that I'm using?
Potentially the theme, potentially not. Probably more so the theme.
Because when I resize or scale the photo up or down, it changes how the lettering in the caption appears, and sometimes it comes out really weird.
Huh. Sounds like maybe the theme. We can take a look at it after, perhaps.
I'll just have to double check.
Number of questions here. Yeah.
That new help system, is it accessible to plugin developers now?
Yeah.
How's it changed?
In 3.0, in 3.3 it will be. So once 3.3 is released, yeah, I mean, you'll be able to do it. Yeah, so currently the function is called add contextual help. I think that's the current function they use now for help. I think we're killing that off.
It changed, yeah.
It'll still work, it still works if plugins are using it now, but I think the new one it's part of like current screen. So it'd be like current screen, add help tab or something like that. I think it's still kind of in flux, so it might break if you try and use it the way it is now. But there are a number, it'll be fully documented when you actually release. You've had your hand up for a while.
Besides the new media uploader, is there also a new media manager? Can you explain the logic behind WordPress creating multiple copies of one image that you upload? Besides, I guess, speed.
So yeah, the media manager isn't yet done. It's been something that we've all thought about and wanted to do. It's not something that we can do all in one release, along with the uploader and everything else we want to work on. So next few releases though, there are going to be some changes with the media library. With regards to media, yeah, you don't want to resize photos in the browser. So for the most part, if you're uploading a 4 megabyte photo from your camera, you don't want to then serve a 4 megabyte photo to your reader. What you want is for it to be scaled down to, let's say, 300 pixels wide or 600 pixels And that way they're getting exactly what you want.
Right. Yeah, but is that the reason why WordPress like creates multiple copies of the image? Because on the back end, administrative part of it becomes a pain going through directories and you're trying to find one picture and you edit it, and you see like 5 others of the same thing.
Yeah, I mean,
not so much, taking out that one place.
One thing that a lot of us have wanted for a while is the ability to actually upload a new file over an existing like attachment image. So you're updating a single photo rather than deleting and updating and uploading a new file. So and that's why
Looking for that.
Yeah, everyone is already saying, yeah, I know. So it's something that I know it's something we've talked about. It's just kind of a lot of the code and a lot of the UI behind the media is old. It's been there for a while. I mean, it's a core part of the framework is media handling. So there's just so much that we need to do. For example, combining those 4 buttons took me probably like 20 or 30 hours of work. Just to actually go through and merge all of that code. Ideally, though, by merging all of that, we've now made it a little easier for the next person to come around and then do something else and do more improvement around it. So there's just so much work there that it's going to happen. But there was a plugin. Do you know the name of it?
Enable media replace.
Enable media replace is the name of the plugin that was that. Now everyone's taking out a notebook. Who's had their hand up for a while? Yeah.
Do you have a website yourself, and how do you spell your name?
It is Nacin, N-A-C-I-N. So it's N. I can't.
Last post 16 April.
Thanks. Number of my friends have made fun of me for this one. Yeah.
16.
He's right. He was correct. That was off the top of your head, wasn't it? Yeah.
Do you have any tips or shortcuts for to speed up development time for WordPress developers?
Speed up development time. Yes. I don't know about that. So what I would start with is that I would try to set up like a really solid development environment. I would develop locally. I would install things like Xdebug, which is a PHP extension that really helps out with debugging. I would install a plugin like Debug Bar, which is a plugin that's actually written by most of the core developers, most of the core and lead developers, that and actually adds a new little panel in the top right corner of the min bar, and it'll give you a whole set of tabs, kind of like Firebug for WordPress, pretty much, where you can do things like debug queries, rewrites, the request. You can actually run SQL. You can run queries in PHP directly from there, like the console with Firebug. There's another plugin called log deprecated notices, which the debug bar actually relies on a little bit, and that plugin will then record all the different notices that a plugin might be spitting out, for using functionality that was deprecated in a previous release. So those are like the basic tools. In terms of tips, actually, speaking of WordCamp Seattle, which just came up there, I gave a presentation there that was talking about best practices for plugin development, and that talk has been given, and there are so many different posts out there on that by a number of different individuals. I would just try and find some resources online as well.
What are you presenting in Philly?
What am I presenting in Philly? I think it says TBA. So that probably means I don't know yet either. So, are you going there? It will be a rather advanced developer talk. I normally don't disappoint, so we'll see. Maybe I will this time, but I haven't exactly decided yet. It might be on, so in WordCamp San Francisco, I spoke about debugging, and I also did a talk with Otto on caching and transients and multi-site. And that was a really fun talk, mainly because it's foreign. The topics are foreign to most people. So it might be an extension of one of those 2 talks, or it might be something completely different. I'll probably decide at least a week before. We'll see. Anyone else going to WordCamp Philly? November 5th and 6th, I think. That sounds correct. 4th and 5th. It's Saturday, Sunday. Don't show up on Monday. Any last questions? You still have that question. Sorry.
I just have a simple question about that cool, pretty permalink thing.
Yeah.
I've had a blog for like a year. Let's say I want to change that. Am I going to lose all my?
Nope.
Okay.
I would check. When going from some permalink structures to others, it might not properly redirect, but for the most part, everything will redirect fine. So WordPress will, even if you've never used that permalink structure before, it will know what post you're referring to and should actually redirect to the right spot. So much that if we wanted to quickly go in here
Even from inbound links from other sites?
Yep.
Wow.
It's just so, I mean, for example, we have things like sample post here, I guess. And in this case, we have new post. And if we wanted to, if we could, let's say, just did like /new, it'll actually pick up the correct one for you. It knows that you're, let's say the link gets cut off in an email or something, it will try to guess, and normally it will find what they're looking for.
Addendum.
Yes.
Question. You know how like Facebook like is and tweets are everywhere? Would you lose that data? Like that, those counts?
So no, because WordPress will deliberately do a permanent redirect, not a temporary redirect.
Okay.
So anything that's looking at that link will know that it moved permanently, and all that data should keep. So Google, for example, when you change, as long as you do a permanent redirect, you temporarily lose, I believe, the juice, and then it comes back. So it's not like a temporary redirect where it's a little different.
As addendum, what is the difference, if any, between the custom, if you do a post name with a /% and your new post name? Is it the same?
Say that again?
Previously, I guess up to now, we've all been doing, like, we want the custom post name, we do the percentage.
The slash at the end.
Yeah, is there any difference between that post name and your?
So like if you want to remove the trailing slash and not use it, is that what you're saying? Or
No, in the dashboard.
percentage slash. So like
No, it's the same.
oh, in
Yeah, your
okay.
settings. When you set up your permalinks.
Yeah, no, everything will be fine. In fact, it'll actually know. So it'll actually know that you're using it. So if we go here to settings. So if we just put custom structure in here, it'll just know that it's actually posting. Yeah, no, nothing will be affected at all that at all. So, Kuhn.
I was searching track, but I couldn't find it. Is the bug fixed for WordPress 3.3 where it adds a div element right under a ordered or unordered list in TinyMC?
I don't know.
Just one.
I think so. So he's actually saying that if you do a list in the visual editor, the next paragraph won't be a paragraph. It's a known bug in Chrome, 7 or something up. I think only on Mac and Windows.
I don't know.
And it's a weird bug, but I'm pretty sure it's fixing the latest version of TinyMC.
Okay.
Does that work? I actually use the visual editor exclusively, but since I haven't blogged since April, then I guess I
Yeah, my girlfriend.
Yeah. My blog is updated, I'm pretty sure.
My girlfriend uses the order list and order list all the time, so I constantly keep on editing in the HTML editor to remove all the div elements. So would be nice if it's fixed. Hallelujah.
Oh yeah.
Looks good.
Yeah.
So that was fixed in TinyMC getting updated. So with that, I think I'm all set. And Steve? One more. Yeah, go.
Any plans to move to Git?
No.
Any plans to what?
Question was any plans to move to Git? Probably not. So for core, all of our tools are built into version. So we have literally hundreds of scripts that run on WordPress.org alone for doing things like creating special builds, creating zip files. The entire plugins directory is based on Subversion very deeply. WordPress.com, which provides a lot of infrastructure for WordPress.org, is all entirely based on Subversion as well. The plugins directory it might do better on something like Git, but I don't think it would. That said, we would want to keep it on something like Core, and that's mainly because ideally what we want is we want the ability for someone who is contributing to a plugin or is aware of the tools that we've been using for doing Core. Really what people want when they say Git most of the time is actually GitHub, to be honest, which is really cool. And I think that one thing that we can be doing better on WordPress.org is providing better tools for plugin authors. So whether that's mailing lists or the ability to actually use the track install that's there. I mean, there are a number of different things we can be doing there for sure. That's in many ways what I do. So I work for Matt Mullenweg, the founder of WordPress, not at Automatic, but actually at his angel investment and research firm called Udry Capital. And so me and Otto, who's the other developer there, who I'm sure many of you have seen around, we work full-time not only on the WordPress project, but in many ways on WordPress.org and other random projects like that. So improving those kinds of things are really important. So, all right.
Can you just set up a sync?
Yeah, you could. Mark Jaquith, one of the lead developers, actually uses Git SVN. He does all of his development in Git branches. So, and then he actually will commit using like I think it's the Git SVN or Git. A number of our contributors do the same thing. So where they'll actually do all their development in Git and then they'll create an SVN patch to actually then upload. So, cool. Thank you very much.